The Belgian Antarctic Expedition of 1897 to 1899 was the first expedition to winter in the Antarctic region. Preparation and surveying. In 1896, after a period of intensive lobbying, Adrian de Gerlache purchased the Norwegian-built whaling ship Patria, which, following an extensive refit, he renamed as the RV Belgica. Belgian de Gerlache had worked together with the Geographical Society of Brussels to organize a national subscription, but was only possible to outfit his expedition after the Belgian government voted in favor of two large subsidies, making it a state-supported undertaking. With a multinational crew, which included Roald Amundsen, Emil Rakovica and Henrik Octofsky, they set sail from Antwerp on 16 August 1897. After leaving Antwerp, the expedition visited Madeira, Rio de Janeiro and Montevideo. The Belgica was especially received enthusiastically in Rio, where a large Belgian community lived. Frederick Cook joined the expedition here. The Brazilians were also very interested in the Belgian scientific undertaking. The Historical and Geographical Society of Rio held a special meeting where the scientists and officers of the expedition were offered membership. A few weeks later, in Montevideo, Amundsen wrote in his diary that he had never seen so many beautiful women in one place at the same time. During January 1898, the Belgica reached the coast of Graham Land. On the 22nd of January, Carl Wiemke was washed overboard during a storm and drowned. Wiemke Island was named in his honor. Sailing in between the Graham Land coast and a long string of islands to the west, de Gerlache named the passage Belgica Strait. Later, it was renamed Gerlache Strait in his honor. After charting and naming several islands during some 20 separate landings, they crossed the Antarctic Circle on the 15th of February 1898. Failing to find a way through into the Weddell Sea on the 28th of February 1898, de Gerlache's expedition became trapped in the ice of the Bellingshausen Sea, near Peter I Island. It is likely that de Gerlache intentionally sailed deep into the pack ice in order to freeze his vessel into the ice for the winter. Despite efforts of the crew to free the ship, they quickly realized that they would be forced to spend the winter on Antarctica. They were poorly equipped and did not have enough winter clothing for every man on board. There was a shortage of food, and what there was lacked in variety. Penguins and seals were killed and the meat stored before the onset of winter. Warm clothing was improvised out of the materials available. On the 21st of March 1898, the expedition's Dr. Frederick Cook wrote, "We are imprisoned in an endless sea of ice. We have told all the tales, real and imaginative, to which we are equal. Time weighs heavily upon us as the darkness slowly advances." Several weeks later, on the 17th of May, total darkness set in, which lasted until the 23rd of July. Adrian de Gerlache disliked the fresh penguin and seal meat that had been killed and stored before the onset of winter and initially tried to ban the consumption, but eventually encouraged it. Signs of scurvy began to show in a number of the men. Lecointe and de Gerlache became so ill they wrote the wills. Two of the crew started to show signs of mental illness and morale in general was extremely poor. Lt. Danko fell ill from a heart condition and died on the 5th of June 1898. Danko Island was named after him. Several men lost their sanity, including one Belgian sailor who left the ship, announcing he was going back to Belgium. Frederick Cook and the first mate, Roald Amundsen, then took command as de Gerlache and Lecointe were unable to fulfill this role due to scurvy. Vitamin C was not discovered until the 1920s, but Cook was convinced that fresh meat was the cure for scurvy due to his experiences with Robert Peary. In the Arctic, Arctic. He retrieved the frozen penguin and seal meat and insisted that each man aids them each day. Even de Gerlach began to eat the meat, and slowly the men all recovered their health. Several months of hardship followed. Attempts to free the ship and its crew from the clutches of the ice failed. By January 1899, the Belgica was still trapped in ice about 7 feet thick, and the possibility of another winter in the ice was becoming real. Open water was about half a mile away, and Cook suggested that trenches should be cut to the open water to allow the Belgica to escape the ice. The weakened crew used dynamite and various tools to create the channel. Finally, on the 15th of February 1899, they managed to slowly start down the channel they had cleared during the weeks before. It took them nearly a month to cover 7 miles, and on the 14th of March they cleared the ice. The expedition returned to Antwerp on the 5th of November 1899. The conditions were hard, but nevertheless the expedition still managed to collect a significant amount of scientific data, including a full year of meteorological observations. Reception. In Antwerp, the expedition was heartily welcomed. A special committee had been planning the festivities for months. Typical for polar expeditions in this age, feelings of national pride surrounded the homecoming celebrations. On the day they first set foot on Belgian soil again, the Brabancon sounded and the national flag was seen waving from many houses. The Belgian state honored de Gerlach and his men by making them members of the Royal Order of Leopold, and the municipal government of Antwerp honored the men by medals and writing their names in the Golden Book of the city. Personnel. The expedition team included some notable individuals: Adrien de Gerlach, Belgian leader; Georges Lecointe, Belgian captain, executive officer and hydrographer; Roald Amundsen, Norwegian first mate. Amundsen learned much from his experience on this expedition, in particular how to prevent scurvy. Frederick Cook, American surgeon, anthropologist and photographer. Henryk Ochtowski, Pole, geologist, oceanographer and meteorologist. Emile Danco, Belgian, geophysical observations. Emile Danco was born in Mechelen and received a very rigid upbringing from his father, a lieutenant colonel in the Belgian army. His mother died while he was still an infant. He entered the Royal Military Academy in 1888 and after completing his studies obtained a commission as an artillery lieutenant in 1891. That year, his father died and Danco wanted to travel abroad. He tried to be detached to the French Navy, like his friend Lecointe, but the Belgian government declined his request. Next, he applied to de Gerlach, also a personal friend, for a position in the Belgian Antarctic Expedition, and even made a substantial donation to the expedition fund. Initially, de Gerlach was hesitant to accept his offer since he knew that Danco had cardiac problems, but gave in at the end. The Belgian army was not so forthcoming. It took an intervention from the Archbishop of Mechelen to obtain permission to participate. He prepared by studying magnetism and meteorology and learned to ski in Norway, where he assisted de Gerlach with the preparation of the Belgica. During the expedition he performed regular magnetic observations and assisted Ochtowski until May 1898, when he fell ill. He remained bedridden, but optimistic, until his death. The wake and burial at sea weighted heavily on the other expedition members. Lecointe took over his observations and published a biography in the resulting scientific report. Danco Coast, Danco Island and the asteroid 9812 Danco were named in his honor. Emil Rakovița, Romanian biologist and speleologist. Antoni Boleslaw Dabrowski, Polish assistant meteorologist. Jules Melaez, Belgian, third lieutenant. In 1908 he was second in command on the training ship Comte de Smetana and later became harbour master in Zeebrugge. Henry Summers, Belgian chief mechanic. After his return he became chief mechanic of the Ostend-Dover ferries. Max van Rysselberghe, Belgian mechanic. From a famous family of artists and academics, including The Acuto van Rysselberghe. After his return to Belgium, he married the daughter of an exiled Chilean minister and ultimately settled in Chile in 1905, where he had a successful career in engineering. His descendants are involved in politics. Louis Michot, Belgian steward, later cook. Michot volunteered to take over as a cook after the original cook was fired and his replacement became ill. His cooking was not universally acclaimed, as Frederick Cook wrote. His soups are full of mystery, and the embalmed meats are on every tongue for condemnation. This affected the expedition's nutrition negatively, since de Gerlach tried to ban the consumption of fresh seal and penguin meat after sampling Michot's badly prepared dishes. Frederick Cook convinced the sick expedition members much later to eat it as a medicine rather than as food. On his return to Belgium, he became the butler of Philippe d'Orléans, and in this capacity participated in the 1905 Belgica expedition to Spitsbergen and Greenland, with the Gerlacher as captain. Adam Tollefsen, Norwegian sailor, suffered from a mental breakdown during the expedition and had to be committed to a mental institution on his return, where he died shortly afterwards. Ludvig Hjalmar Johansen, Norwegian sailor, Engelbrekt Knudsen, Norwegian sailor, died shortly after the expedition. Gustav Gaston de Four, Belgian sailor. After his return he moved to Congo, where he suffered from a stroke and was paralyzed. He died in 1940 while still in a hospital. Jan van Mierlo, Belgian sailor, born in Antwerp, conscripted, but allowed to fulfill his military service on board the Belgica. After his return he obtained a position as lockkeeper in recognition of his participation in the expedition. He regularly returned to life at sea as a sailor for a few months at a time and was well known in artistic circles in his hometown. The poet Jan van Nielen published the poem De Gedrumd Race based on his experiences in the Antarctic. At the end of his life his wife had him committed to a mental institution due to his free-spending habits. His memoirs formed the basis of the historical novel De Winter van der Belgica. Carl August Wiemke, Norwegian sailor. Wiemke was washed overboard and drowned on the way to Antarctica. Johan Koren, Norwegian cabin boy and assistant zoologist. He was a theology student before the expedition and became a preacher after his return. He died in 1919 in Vladivostok. Koren brought on board Nansen, the ship's cat on the expedition. He was named after Fridtjof Nansen. He died on the 22nd of June 1898 and was buried in the Antarctic. In addition, there are a number of people who only participated in part of the expedition. These are Johansen, Sandefjord, Ostend, resigned on the 22nd of August 1897. Gulliksen, Sandefjord, Ostend, resigned on the 22nd of August 1897. Joseph Duvivier, Antwerp, Rio de Janeiro, Montevideo, Punta Arenas, fired on the 26th of October 1897 in Rio de Janeiro, hired again on the 14th of November 1897 in Montevideo, fired again in Punta Arenas due to incompetence. Lemonnier, Antwerp, Montevideo, fired on the 13th of November 1897 due to bad behavior. Jan van Damme, Antwerp, Punta Arenas, fired on the 11th of December 1897 due to insubordination. Maurice Warzi, Antwerp, Punta Arenas, fired on the 11th of December 1897 due to insubordination. Franz Dom, Antwerp, Punta Arenas, fired on the 11th of December 1897 due to insubordination. The original ship's surgeon had resigned in Ostend and was replaced by Cook. Lemania was replaced in Montevideo by a Swede, who had to resign in Punta Arenas due to illness. His duties were taken over by Michot.